Bună seara! Cred că suntem live. Bună seara copii, bună seara părinți și bine ați venit la încă o zi la MiniStory. MiniStory, acest minunat târg, această minunată idee de târg de carte pentru copii, care din păcate, iată, nu se poate întâmpla față în față. Nu putem să ne bucurăm de mirosul cărților și în același timp de toate mirosurile de sărbătoare când suntem în căutare de cadouri, însă încercăm the next best thing, cum s-ar zice, și ne vedem cu cei mai îndrăgiți autori și sperăm pentru noi cei mai îndrăgiți autori și sperăm că și pentru voi. În această seară avem un invitat foarte special. O avem alături de noi pe Surgey, care este cea care a creat lumea minunată din Ghiozdanul cel greu, care e o carte pentru copii puțin diferită, pentru că o să vedeți, are ea o componentă terapeutică acolo, o componentă foarte interesantă care vă învață pe voi copiii și dragi părinți, care vă ajută pe voi să îi ajutați pe copii să-și înțeleagă mai bine emoțiile. Și în această seară, nu oricine o să ia acest interviu lui Sarah, ci o avem alături de noi pe Amilin. Bună seara, Amilin, mulțumim frumos că ni te-ai alăturat. Sarah, hi. I'm going to switch to English right now, and I was trying to say a few words about your book, which has proven already to be an amazing tool. All of the parents who have managed to get their hands on it so far have said that it has helped their children so much, and it has helped them help their children understand their emotions better. So without further ado, I'm just going to leave you in Amilin's able hands. Good luck. Have a great day and a great night.
Okay. In the first part of our conversation, I'd like to ask you something about the kids with your work. And the first question is, why did you choose to write a book that helps children deal with their emotions?
So I'm a mum of 4 daughters, and they're all very different ages. And I've also been a teacher over the years here in England and in France. And the one thing that I've always been really passionate about, in amongst everything else that you do as a mum or a parent or a teacher, is to make sure that we open up these lines of communications for children, and very importantly, for them to be able to express their emotions. So as a writer, it was really important for me to work on a story that I thought could just start conversations for children to make it a little bit easier about their emotions. So it just kind of came about at the right time, when here in the UK and obviously all over, we were kind of in lockdown, and a lot of emotions were changing at the time, and a lot of children were away from school, away from their friends, where they would normally naturally let their emotions out. So I just wanted to write a book that would hopefully start those conversations for them to be able to talk about emotions.
Okay, thank you. How do you explain sociolinguistics to children?
How do I explain what, sorry?
Sociolinguistics.
Social linguistics is actually really interesting. It's a lot more interesting than what the word sounds. It's how linguistics, the way we talk, but also the way we communicate, is changed in whatever society we live in. So where we live, the place, the time, whoever's around us, that's our society, and that changes how we communicate with each other. So I just find it a really interesting subject, although it does sound a little bit long, that word, but yeah, it's about how we communicate, which is important.
So do you think it's very important kids now thinks about sociolinguistics?
Yeah, I think it's important, because I think it's good for us to kind of stop and think about how we're communicating with each other, how we're talking to each other. Are we being kind? Are we thinking before we speak? But it's also it's important for other people to understand and to recognise that we're in different societies and different areas. So obviously we communicate differently, but I just find it very interesting to learn about other societies and other cultures and how languages evolve in those.
Okay. And now, children's books shouldn't start with something sad. Do you think this thinking that children shouldn't come into contact with evil or wrong is rooted in good intention, but has developed into an overprotective attitude?
So there's a thing that we've been studying within our English language and various courses that I do within uni, and it talks a lot about appropriation, and appropriation is really what the adult society thinks is appropriate for subjects within children's books, and that's changed definitely. I think the topics and the themes of the real world have changed, especially recently. So I think although sometimes we think that books shouldn't start or be about something that's quite sad, and obviously my book deals with grief and death and loss, that's actually a real world subject which actually affects lots of children. So although we all like to think of children's storybooks, you know, having a happy ending and starting in a really good place, I think children are exposed a lot more nowadays to real world subjects. So I think I don't think people are trying to be overprotective when they want sort of happy endings and happy themes in their books. I just think that's how we kind of see children's literature, but I think it's changed and it's evolving and it's bringing in things that happen in the real world which children are exposed to now.
Okay, now I'd like to ask you something about you and your beautiful book.
Thank you.
Do you see the book as your child or just the result of the work?
It's funny actually, because that's completely how I see my book. I see it as my child. I'm really attached to the heavy bag for some reason, and I've written other books and they all mean something to me, but there's something about the heavy bag which feels very connected to me, and I'm yeah, it definitely feels like it's my fifth child. Actually, I've got 4 daughters, so it's most definitely part of me, and I just feel really connected to it, so I try and look after it.
How do you relate with your book that you've written? Do you think that the story belongs to you or the other way around? Do you think somehow by writing it, your own backpack is also less heavy?
I think it's a bit of both actually, and I think a lot of writers will say that about their books. I think it belongs to me, but it also means that I'm really happy to share it with people, and I definitely think there's probably a part of me in that book, and when I was writing it I probably have offloaded a little bit of my heavy bag as I've written it, but yeah, like I said before, I feel very connected to it, so I feel like it belongs to me and I belong to it, but I am really happy to share it with people.
On the back cover of your book, it says suitable for 5-8 years old. Do you think a text can be just for one single age group? Do you think it's necessary to mention this on the back cover?
That's a really, really good question, because Amilin, I absolutely agree with what you're thinking there. So a lot of publishing houses, when you write a book, when you submit your book to a publishing house, they have specific categories for ages for children. So they look at each book and they want to put each book into a certain age category, and it's really specific. And I actually struggled with the heavy bag because in the very beginning, people, you know, publishing houses were asking me, what age is it for? And you have to say 7 to 9 or 9 to 12, and I found that really hard because I couldn't quite pinpoint where to put it. So although there is an age on the back, because when it sits in a store as well, it's in an age appropriation. It's in a store, they quite often have books for certain ages. So although it does have the age on there, because that has to be there for stores, I know that my readership is all over, because I've had very young children read it, have the book read to them, but I've also had adults who've contacted me and they've read it, and it's kind of resonated with them. So I think it's a very good question. Yes, we have to put that age on the back for stores and publishing houses. However, absolutely, it is for everybody.
Okay, I think the literature is for everybody.
Yeah, yeah, I absolutely agree. I think that I agree with you, definitely.
And the fact that novel was stained with black spots catch my attention.
Yeah.
My interpretation of that would be the darkness without which the stars can shine. Why do you think these spots are so important?
So when my illustrator, Larissa Ivankovic, sent me the illustrations, I was the same as you. Again, my eyes immediately went to these black spodges that were all over the book. And I thought, I really like that, because for me, I think that grief, which is obviously the theme that the book deals with, can be quite sporadic. It can be quite erratic, which means it's all over the place. You know, one day good, one day bad. And I think the black spodges just kind of our interpretation of grief, and when grief can be very erratic and can feel like it's kind of all over the place and you don't always know where you are. So I think my illustrator, Larissa Ivankovic, absolutely got it spot on when she added those splodges.
Okay, thank you so much. Now let's speak about your contact with the literature.
Yeah.
How did you start writing? Did you cross paths with literature, or did she come to your aid and help you with your own heavy bag?
So I've been writing for as long as I can remember, which is probably very similar to a lot of children. I remember when I was younger, I would walk around, I'd always have a pen and paper, and I'd always be writing stories and writing little notes down. So I was always writing. And then I became an adult and I had my family, and I started teaching, and I've always been writing in the background, always writing. And then I realized that actually this is a job. People can actually be writers. And for me, it was just such an amazing realization to know that actually I could do something that I absolutely love. So I feel like it found me, but then over the years I've studied it as well. So I've got a real love for literature, and I'm really interested by it. So I think it's a bit of both. It found me and I also found it.
Okay, I think to be a writer, to have other job, it is something more special, because you say it, you can say it just like a job. I think is passion, and I think literature may be something would you perceive with your soul.
Yes.
And I want to ask you, why did you choose to write for children's?
So first of all, yes, you're absolutely right. It's something very special, and it is more than a job. It's a passion, and it's absolutely within you, because I could be anywhere in my day doing anything, and I will suddenly think of something that I want to write, and I need to write it down. So it's definitely something that is a passion within me, and I think it's something that I'm really lucky to be able to do, and to be able to do something that I enjoy so much. But the reason that I write for children is because I work with children, so I'm very used to communicating with children, and we quite often within the classroom we are telling stories all the time and we're reading stories, and I just thought, oh, I've got so many ideas that I want to tell the children, these stories. I'll just write them down. So it just kind of happened naturally, I think.
Do you think children see literature and accept her more less heavy than the adults?
Yeah, I think children escape into literature, they escape into stories, and they kind of go all in, whereas I think adults still kind of stand back a little bit and think a little bit too heavy sometimes about literature. So I definitely think that children see it sort of a lot less heavy, and sometimes just enjoy the story.
So do you think in writing children's book you have more creative freedom too?
Absolutely, because you quite often get into a child's mind, and when you are writing stories for them, you kind of have to put yourself in their place and think, you know, how can I relate to them? What would they find interesting or exciting, or what would relate to them? So you more often than not have to put yourself in their place as well, which means that you find your inner child. And definitely with children's literature, you've got what we would say is a free rein, which means, you know, there's no limits really of how creative you can go.
Okay, and now let's go in the center of the situation. Do you think when you lose someone you love, the word loses its color for a while or forever?
That's a really interesting question, and that's really got me thinking. And I would say, I think personally, when I've been really sad, I think the world does lose its colour. I think colour comes back, but I think it comes back slightly differently. I think we see things differently. I definitely think when we go through something, if we go through something that makes us feel really sad, I think when we come through the other side, things look a little bit different. So I think it loses its colour and then it does come back, but sometimes the colour is slightly different to how it first was.
Okay, do you think literature help world to give to the world the color back?
Yeah, I think literature fills in the gaps. So when we sometimes lose things in the world, and sometimes when we lose our way, or if things change and we feel a little bit confused, I think literature definitely fills in the gaps, because it gives us new meaning to a lot of things, but it also gives us a little bit of inspiration and a bit of imagination where we can fill in the things that we've been missing.
Okay, at the point in the book, you say they appeared to never leave her alone, not even when she went out to see the things that made her happy, the trees, the birds, twigs, and rainbows. Do you think during our lives we are bound to things or to people to have us to make memories with these things?
Definitely. I think memories come from everything. They come from people and they come from objects. And I think that we are bound probably more to the memories than the actual objects. And I think it's a very strong bond and a very strong tie that we have. Sometimes we forget those memories are there, and it takes for an object, a rainbow or you know, something to just kind of remind us of what that memory was. But I think we're definitely bound to our memories. Yeah.
At the point, I like it when you said that you wanted to keep them safe like a pirate's treasure. Do you think we can keep someone safe if we protect him, her, or rather, if we guide him, her to handle things by himself or herself?
So we talk about very much here about giving children the tools for them to be able to look after themselves and to make good decisions. But I think we are their protectors alongside. So I feel like it's a little bit of both. I think we can definitely protect children, but I think as that kind of starts to open up quite a lot, then I think definitely it's important that we give them the tools so they can work alongside us and help to protect themselves.
The girl have lots of things in her backpack, like a boat or some cookies. Do you have personal memories about the things in the girl's backpack?
So I didn't pick specific things actually that meant something to me. When I was writing the book, I wrote down a character page for the little girl, and as I was building up her character, I was imagining the sort of things that would mean something to her. So it's definitely things that mean something to the character, but I think it's relatable to a lot of children to have the boat and the telescope and all the things from childhood that we have memories from.
Oh, it is easier to communicate with people we don't know. Bert, help her to escape the boat. Is the escape from the boat a way to fulfill her grandpa's wish?
Yeah, I think it is easier to communicate sometimes with people that we don't know, because I think we're starting from the sort of same place. We're not bringing all of our baggage with us, and we're not remembering things that have happened before. So I think it's quite good to talk to somebody quite often who doesn't know the situation, because we can start afresh and they can give us a fresh opinion on what's gone on. And I think that's exactly what happened with the little girl on the boat in the park, that the boat sailing off meant something to her and it meant something to him, and it was actually just a really nice moment for both of them at that time.
Okay, after reading your book, have you ever walked around carrying a heavy bag, sharing some of the load, some of your own pain with those who accept to carry him? Sorry, but in the first time I read two other questions.
That's okay. So yeah, so I've definitely carried a heavy bag, and I think actually since I've written the book and I've spoken to so many people over the last year or so, I think I've gotten better at offloading items from my heavy bag and definitely sort of talking to people more.
Okay, a rainbow appears twice in the book. One of the start of it and one of the last pages. What is it meaning of this rainbow for you?
I just think that rainbow is colour in the darkness. Whenever I see a rainbow, I'm always super happy to see it. It normally means that it's dark and it's been raining, and it's just a little bit of colour in my day, which always makes me feel a little bit happier.
Okay. Edin is very affected by her loss of her grandpa. Why did you start the book with such a big loss?
I thought it was something that could be really relatable to children. I remember losing my grandpa when I was younger, and it really upset me and it really affected me quite a lot. And I just felt like that I knew how to write about that. And I think for children, a lot of children can relate to losing a grandparent or somebody around them who they love. So yeah, just for me, it was quite personal actually, but I just felt that it was quite relatable for lots of people.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
The heaviest of the bag seems to be more spiritual than physical. do you want to make people be aware from a small age that things don't weigh as much as our memories?
Yeah, it's definitely spiritual. I mean, obviously it talks about a heavy bag and the little girl is physically carrying this heavy bag, but it's definitely much more than that. It is about the weight that we carry when we are having all these emotions and how heavy it can make us feel. So it was definitely quite a spiritual theme as well as the literal term. It's quite metaphorical with the girl carrying the heavy weight.
Adding speech of mine comes gradually. Do you believe that who helped her to be at ease and carried her bag were like a hand and catch her on time in her descent into depression and introversion?
Can you say that again? Sorry, I didn't hear.
Adding's peace of mind come gradually. Do you believe that those who helped her be at ease and carried her bag were like a hand that caught her on time in her descent into depression and introversion?
So yes, I absolutely get that. Yes, definitely the people that she met on her journey, they definitely helped to catch her, and they helped move her forwards actually on her journey, although at the end it's not a happy ending. It's an ending of contentment, because she finally understands what her emotions are and there's acceptance there. So definitely people along the way, they were the hands that helped to catch her.
Why is the road paved with pebbles at the beginning of the book? What's the goal? Is it stop her or to make her keep on going?
So the pebbles are quite hard to walk in. So it's showing, it's depicting how hard it was for her to walk at the beginning.
Okay, and now that is my last question.
Yeah.
After reading your book, I realize we all are wearing giant bag in our backs, which weighs down on our emotions. Do you think that our backpacks contain only objects? Are they the only ones we should give up?
I think the heavy bags that we carry definitely carry our objects, which means something to us. And I think when Enid takes them out of her bag and hands them to people, she's not giving them up forever, and they are in turn giving her her memories. So I think it's really important that if we are carrying a heavy bag, that we do take the items out and we do give them to somebody to help carry. It doesn't mean that they're gone forever. It just means that somebody's there to help us, and the memories will stay.
Okay, in the end, the road seems to help Edin free herself, to make her understand the beauty of the memories. They, together with her grandpa, will never be lost. Thank you so much for this lesson in accepting the human condition. Goodbye.
You are very welcome. Thank you so much, Amilin.